Okay, get ready for this one. Imagine a sitting president of the United States publicly declaring war on one of the most powerful tech companies on the entire planet. Well, you don't have to imagine it because that's exactly what happened in this incredible high-stakes showdown between Donald Trump and the AI giant Anthropic. We're going to dive into a story where presidential power, the most advanced AI we've ever seen, and the very future of warfare all just collide.
And there it is. With this one single post on his Truth Social platform, President Trump just publicly cut ties with a major government technology partner. And boom, just like that, a firestorm erupts across the tech and political worlds. But as you're about to see, this explosion, it did not come out of nowhere.
And really, that's the big question, isn't it? How does a company that's so deeply woven into government operations suddenly become public enemy number one? To really get it, you got to look at a conflict that had been boiling just under the surface for months.
So where did this all kick off? Well, it started with a presidential order. But this wasn't delivered through some official memo or press conference. Nope, this came through a series of social media posts that carried the full weight of the White House.
And the order? Crystal clear. On a Friday, President Trump declared that all of Anthropic's super powerful AI tools would be completely phased out of all government work over the next 6 months. Now keep in mind, this is a company that had been a key U.S. government partner since 2024. I mean, this was a huge and very, very public breakup.
And just look at the language here. This is not the sterile, boring wording of a policy change. The president framed this as a full-blown culture war battle, throwing politically loaded labels like woke and radical left at a tech company. He wasn't just ending a contract here, he was basically declaring an all-out ideological war.
But, this public fight was really just the tip of the iceberg. The real conflict, the thing that started it all, was happening behind the scenes. And it was all about a fundamental disagreement over safeguards and who's in control.
So who is this company, Anthropic? You've got to understand, these guys are a huge deal in the AI world. It was founded by former executives from their main competitor, OpenAI. Their technology is considered some of the most advanced on the planet, which, of course, is exactly why the U.S. government and the military were so eager to work with them in the first place.
And right here, this slide is the heart of the entire conflict. On one side, you have the Pentagon. They're demanding unfettered access to Anthropic's AI for pretty much any lawful use. But Anthropic, they said, nope, not going to happen. They drew two firm ethical red lines in the sand. First, no using their tech for mass domestic surveillance. And second, absolutely no use in fully autonomous weapons systems. We're talking about machines that could make life or death decisions with no human in the loop. That's a massive debate in military tech, and Anthropic said no way.
So you have this fundamental disagreement, right? Well, behind closed doors, things got real fast. Before any of this went public, the administration decided it was going to force the issue, which led to a super high-stakes standoff.
And check out this timeline. It shows you just how fast everything fell apart. So at the start of the week, the Secretary of Defense calls Anthropic CEO to D.C. and lays down an ultimatum. By Thursday, the CEO goes public and says, look, we'd rather walk away than cross our ethical lines. And then on Friday, right before the deadline hits, the president drops the hammer. It was this massive pressure play, and it just completely blew up in their face.
And you got to look at the threats themselves, because they actually contradict each other. It's kind of wild. On one hand, the administration threatened to use the Defense Production Act to force Anthropic to do what they want, basically seizing control of their tech. But on the other hand, they threatened to declare the company a supply chain risk, which would label them as not secure enough for the government to use. I mean, think about it. You can't say something is so vital you have to seize it, and in the next breath say it's too risky to even use. It just doesn't add up.
The administration probably expected Anthropic to just fold under all this pressure. But what they clearly didn't count on was that everyone in the tech industry was watching, and they were about to pick a side.
And this quote? It's just wild. It's from Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. Okay, these two companies are the fiercest of rivals. But instead of, grabbing the popcorn and watching his rival burn, Altman immediately saw the bigger threat here, that the government's demands were setting a really dangerous precedent for the entire AI industry.
And look, this wasn't just talk. In an internal memo, Altman made it clear that OpenAI had the exact same ethical red lines as Anthropic. All of a sudden, this stopped being about which company was better. It became about the fundamental principles that are going to guide the future of artificial intelligence.
The support wasn't just coming from the CEOs either. No, this was coming from the ground up.
We're talking about an open letter with backing from groups that represent something like 700,000 tech workers, all pushing their own companies to stand with Anthropic and say no to the Pentagon. That is a massive number.
And we're not talking about a few small startups here. We're talking about employees at Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, the giants. And all of them have their own huge, very profitable contracts with the Department of Defense. This massive protest sent a clear signal. If these big companies didn't side with Anthropic, they were looking at a potential mutiny inside their own walls.
So this whole fight between one company and the White House just spiraled into something way bigger, and it blew up into these huge critical questions about our future, specifically the future of AI in war and national security.
So why could Anthropic actually afford to stand up to the U.S. government? Well, this chart says it all. Their Pentagon contract was worth about $200 million. Okay, that sounds like a lot of money to you and me, right? But for them, it's basically a rounding error compared to their company valuation of 380 times billion dollars. In this particular power struggle, the government's financial leverage was next to zero.
You have to understand just how historic this move by the administration was. The whole supply chain risk label has been used before, but against foreign companies like Huawei. It has never, ever been turned inward against a domestic American company. That's a tool of economic warfare now being aimed right at a homegrown company from Silicon Valley. That's a huge, huge deal.
And, experts looking at this from the outside, they basically said the government had no leg to stand on. As one former DoD official put it, the threats were just extremely flimsy. For Anthropic, standing up for its principles isn't just an ethical victory. This is amazing PR for them. They come out of this looking like the responsible ones, and like we just saw, they simply don't need the money.
And so this entire saga leaves us with an absolutely monumental question. What we've just seen is a deep, profound shift in power. For the very first time, a private tech company, not a country, has successfully told a superpower how its most advanced technology can be used in a war. This isn't just about one contract or one president. It's about a whole new reality, where the people who create world-changing tech might now have more say over its use than the governments we elect. So as we go deeper and deeper into the age of AI, the ultimate question is still out there. Who truly gets to draw the red lines?